So this morning I put a shirt on and lost a button, and then I was looking for some money, and I lost a $5, and I was sort of afraid to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Okay.
So, boom, boom. The birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution from Cowork 591 Studios. We are the Bohemian Reformation. This is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network with producer Blake Tempus and co-host Dale Rueber. I'm Jim Gillespie, and this is a Jesup News for November 25th. We are, you gotta forgive Dale and I, we're coming off a turkey high. Turkey high, so we got our we got our afternoon fill of stuffing and turkey, and
thanks to Bank of Iowa. Went to the Bank of Iowa dinner today.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Bank of Iowa, for that.
Speaking of wonderful, did you happen to see this Tempus kid sing in the musical last week?
I did see.
I said, he just looked, and I said, which one is he? And I said, well, it looked just like Blake up there. And so, did you ever sing in the musical, Blake, or anything?
I did not.
So your brother?
This is his year too.
Huh?
This is his year too.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Wow.
And so he's the brave one in the gets up on stage. Okay. Well, I think that's wonderful. So he did a nice job. So,
what grade is he in?
He'd be a sophomore.
Oh gosh, so we got
a long way. He could be on the big stage next year in the auditorium.
I think that's probably the plan.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Hopefully they get in the auditorium next year.
Looking forward to maybe just old age too, but the audio is not very good for me in that gym, and so a lot I don't get. I don't hear, but and it helps when I know the play. But that play I did not know too well, and so
it was Cinderella. I mean, the play was.
I know.
I'm not telling you that. I'm telling the audience it was Cinderella.
Yeah.
Tonight we're sponsored by Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster. Mickey D's, if you guys did not know, is a food truck.
Drives from Boston and.
The Farrells own this food truck, and they have pizza, they have sandwiches. Mike was saying they've offered other things. I need to ask Mike about is it Dunkin' Donuts is real big in the Northeast, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was the other one.
Or is it Krispy Kreme?
I thought it was Krispy Kreme. I don't know for sure.
Maybe it is.
I thought Krispy Kreme was more like there's one in every corner in Boston or something.
That's right. Yeah. And not just Boston, but all of New Hampshire or New England. New England. Yeah.
One of them places up there.
Yeah.
But Mike, I don't think people know. Mike is from Boston, born and raised in Boston, and came here. And so the food that he's serving is what he learned to prepare in Boston. It's a Boston kind of pizza and the lobster rolls from that area because he grew up. There's lobster next to in the ocean there, and so.
Well, and if he told me this before, I did not know this, but he was saying he owned a restaurant for a year.
No, I did not know. I don't.
He said that last show while you were gone on assignment in the Congo.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
Thank you very much. I mean, Mugawa or Muga.
Tonight we're going to talk about our artist and resident Richard Moore Kelly. We're going to talk about tattoos. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's cabinet appointees. We've been promising this, and we got to get to this, Dale. This is the third show I promised this, and we've run out of time on the other shows. We're going to talk about how we're like our parents.
Oh, how we are like our parents?
Like our parents.
Okay.
And we're going to look at the Jesup News. There's a little bit of Jesup News break.
Yeah, I got some stuff.
And we're going to look at the upcoming shows. We have a show, another live show coming up December 7th, and we have a weekly update of the Steve Brown Arts Center. So, the Steve Brown Arts Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has a vision for artists, young and old alike, to have the opportunity to better themselves while helping to build the skills of those around them. It will be offering the community programming started in Jesup, Iowa, and the long-range vision is to house rural artist residency program for professional and emerging artists in all areas of the arts and the humanities. So with that said, Dale, how were you like your parents?
Well, parents both had a sense of humor, and I think I'm like them that way. And I think about my dad as an older man had a pickup, and I'd see him driving, and he would be kind of hunched, and he had two hands on the wheel, kind of hunched over driving, and I find myself driving every now and then, and I think, oh no, so then I sit back and put my hand up like I'm a teenager again, you know. So I do notice that, yeah. My dad, when and I remember, this is more as an older man, when my dad was older, he was older when I was born, but when the Cowboys would fight, like on television, well, he would be fighting too. Every now and then I find myself doing that, and so a lot of ways like that. But he was slow to get mad, and he was soft spoken. Never hurt anybody, so I think I'm trying to be like that. So
Did you parent like your parents did? Did you parent like your parents did?
I don't think so. Because first of all, you parent like your wife, like the mother wants to parent, I think, more than anything. And also, I grew up in the 50s, and it was pretty much just the door in the morning and come back for meals, or when you have something broken or whatever. My kids were more controlled as far as where you're going and who's watching and who are, this sort of thing. And their kids are even more so. So it's gotten, I don't say it's gotten worse, but it's gotten even more that way. And so I think I was kind of, my parents raised me like, go out and see the world kind of thing. Mm-hmm. In the neighborhood, and they did not worry too much about what I was doing. And I have to admit, sometimes they should have been worried about what I was doing. But so I think I was more involved with my children's life than my parents were.
Don't you think, though, your parents probably did worry? They just weren't not driven, but they just didn't show that worry to you.
It could be, could very well be. I know there were a couple of times when I worried my mother, and my father took exception to that, and I was wishing that I hadn't worried my mother. And so I know that was the case, that they did worry about certain kinds of things. But for the most part, they had kind of like a hands-off approach.
Right. So a little bit about my mom and dad. My mom was a fast walker. I mean, almost a jog walk when we went places. And my dad was from the South, laid back. He was always a step and a half behind my mom.
Yeah.
And I could remember my mom getting after my dad one time about being too slow and wasn't going to change that.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Mom, Dad's not going to change, but
yeah.
You're right. And for the first, probably 40 years of my life, 45 years of my life, I was that race walking person.
Yeah.
The last 23 years of my life, I've been my dad, laid back, walking, no hurry.
There was a kid at El Toro, and I tell you, he was the slowest moving human being I've ever seen in my life. It would take him half an hour to get from one side of the room to the other if there was a job over there for him to do. And I have a eager beaver work ethic, this kind of thing. It was just really something. But yeah, he was like a sloth. I mean, he just was slow moving, and nothing motivated him to quicken his pace, no matter who was yelling at him. So I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And actually, those people are going to live a long time, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Another thing, my mother could get along with anyone. I mean, my mother made instant friends. She did not have very many friends that she spent a lot of time with. Her independence was important to her. Myself and Dad were important to her. But Mom got along with everyone, from my friends' friends. I mean, people loved my mother. Just, I mean, even to this day, my classmates, and I go home or I go back to Cresco, and they say your mother was the greatest, well, you didn't know my mother. You never been to your house in my life. How do you know my mother?
Yeah.
And they would.
Deb and I knew your mom. Your mom lived in Jesup here at the end of her life.
Yeah.
And we got to know her just through walking or talking, whatever. And we enjoyed, very nice person.
Oh, yeah.
We enjoyed talking with her very much.
Yeah, and she was. Part of that was she was a social worker all her life. She was in, from the time she was 14 years old, she had a job, and I like to think I had a good work ethic because of my mother. You know, at least I believe that. You know, maybe other people wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But,
Well, who cares what they
that's
say?
right. That's right. You know, my mother had a strong drive to make sure things were right.
Yeah.
And when things weren't right, she was going to change that. And I've tried to be like that, but some of that's gotten my way. And some of that, you know, you burn bridges when you're that way sometimes.
Yeah.
My mother was always disappointed. She had a sister that graduated from high school before the Depression. Well, my mother was 14 during the Depression, and her parents made her get out and get a job and work for the neighbor. The neighbors had money, and she had to come home and bring that money home to her parents.
Yeah.
And that scarred Mom for a long time.
Yeah. My mother, I didn't think she lived on farms most of the time, so she was used to being by herself, you know, as a child and as a married woman. And I never thought she was real connected with things. And I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. And in the spring, we find out, you know, there's a junior girl who's pregnant, and there's a senior boy who's the father. And all the kids say, well, we're not going to let this out, you know, we're going to let it play out, but we're not going to be talking about this or anything.
Yeah.
And so I go home, and my mother said, oh, did you know that so-and-so was pregnant? I said, well, how'd you? I just learned myself 10 minutes ago. Oh, she said, it was on the grapevine. And so I thought, okay, I didn't know she was on the grapevine, but apparently she was. So parents always surprise their kids. I think kids have no idea what their parents know.
No, we don't. We don't. And we didn't in so many ways. And you're right. You're right. I don't think children do today even.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So this is the Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. I'm Jim Gillespie with Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. Dale, what do you have for Jesup news?
Jesup news, well, you want me to do the library, the school, and the news? Or just do the city?
Sure,
Okay.
you betcha.
We have a little library stuff for the end of the month here. You can still pick up the Fenu Greek Spice at the library through the end of the month. And the exercise group still goes Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. The movie is today, Monday, November 25th at 1 o'clock. If you hear it before, it's called Unsung Hero. Remember, it's always free admission and popcorn. It runs about 114 minutes. It's a PG movie. And early in December, from the 2nd to the 7th, and then you come back from the 9th to the 14th, you can do a puzzle swap, which I think is a great idea, where you can drop off puzzles in real good condition. They want the original box and all the pieces, which I think is important.
Yeah.
And then you can come back the next week and pick up a new one to do at your home, apparently at your leisure. So I think that's great. And also the library will be closed for Thanksgiving on Thursday and Friday, the 28th and 29th. And they will be open on Saturday, November 30th on their regular hours. So school news coming up this week. November 25th, the boys basketball gets going with a jamboree at North Lynn. And on the November 26th, the girls basketball, they play their first game at Waukon. It's a varsity, junior varsity girls game. And then there's Thanksgiving break in there, so those are the only two things coming up this week. But keep in mind, early in December, December the 3rd, there's a boys and girls doubleheader basketball versus Hudson at Jesup, so you can see what the teams are going to be like early in the year. And Hudson usually has a good team to challenge. And then December the 6th is girls and boys varsity basketball versus Denver at Jesup, and that's when the FFA is serving that tenderloin supper from 5 to 8. And I've had that before, and that is pretty good. So those are things to keep in mind. There's also a week after that some concerts and this sort of thing that the kids will be putting on, and we'll talk about that next week. City news, we found out longtime city employee James Masteller and also a young Brett Flaharty, it was Brett, right? Brock Flaharty, have resigned their positions with the city of Jesup, and they've accepted positions working for the city of Cedar Falls. And I know Brock did a lot of work, but James Masteller was a tremendous help at Farmers Day. The city workers do a lot of stuff for us to help get all those tents set up and different things going that we couldn't get done by ourselves. And so we will miss him very much. and wish them well in their new positions. And I guess if you want a job with the city, now's a good time to apply, isn't it? So
They have so many things they have to do. They have to wastewater. They have to deal with. They have to drive the snow plow in the wintertime.
do the streets. And,
They got to drive a backhoe.
Yeah.
They've got to mow yards. They've got a lot going on.
oh yeah. And my big appreciation is I think it was over Christmas vacation one year, it's probably happened more than once, where I think it was on a Sunday, and maybe it was even at night, but the city workers are out there in the freezing cold with their backhoe digging up a frozen water main to try to get the water to flow.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, John Frosky was out there, I know, running the backhoe. And I thought, man, that's a tough job. It's Christmas time or whatever, and it's freezing out here, and you're working with water.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get that water going again for the people. And so, of course, it would be a kind of job that would make you feel pretty good about the number of people that you're helping and supporting. And it's an IPERS job too, which I think is great if you think about that kind of thing. And also I've heard reports that the Dairy Cone is up for sale. Have you heard that?
I've heard that.
Okay.
And that is the only restaurant in town right now.
Yeah. And
Is that still open?
I think it's still open. I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Okay.
There's cars they did tonight when I went by. And so I think it's still open. That's first place when we moved to Jesup. We unloaded our stuff, then we went to the Dairy Cone to get tenderloins. I think my brother and my dad were helping us move.
Yeah.
And so that was my first experience with the Dairy Cone tenderloin, which I've had many of. You called on her, and Shelley knows your voice, you know. If you order something different, she always asks if you're sick or something. Okay. And then, I don't know if you saw, but there's on the corner, across the street here, at the southeast corner of 6th and Young, they've installed these multi-unit mailboxes. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's over there now, and and once they get those old mailboxes out of there, I think that will look a lot nicer for people driving through town and everything. So, I think they have one of those over for Winding Creek also, don't they?
I'm not sure if they're doing
They might
that.
have something like that, but those work really well. I know my kids in Johnson, they're just neighborhood mailboxes. They're just a big square box with smaller sections in, and you get your mail in, box 42 or whatever it is.
Right.
And so they work kind of neat. So that, I don't know if that's beautifying the city or whatever, or what prompted that, but it's there and it looks a lot nice. And those old mailboxes were still there the last I looked, so I'm hoping that because they look really farmerish, like somebody ran into them 4 or 5 times and this sort of thing. So.
Are you talking the mailbox right across the
Right
street
across from the corner, yeah.
Right on the corner.
Right on the corner.
Not Santa's
No,
mailbox.
this is where the water fountain is.
Oh.
Right across on the corner here.
Yeah.
There's
Gosh.
a multi-unit mailbox. You're in a hick town when that's big news, where you say rush to the window to see the new mailbox that's up there. So if you have a few minutes, I was getting my Medicare physical on October 31st. And it's not a physical like you usually get, where you take off your clothes and all this sort of thing. You just kind of sit there, and they talk to you about, do you feel safe, and are you eating right, and can you manage your bathing and all this sort of thing. And then they listen to your heart and this sort of thing. And so the girl that I first go in, I'm sitting in their little room, and she talks to me, fills out the papers. And she's going out the door, and she said, have you ever had a colonoscopy? And I said, no. And she said, do you want one? I said, no. So she leaves. So when the doctor person comes in, they talk to me, and I say, well, I see, you have this in your family. Your brother had prostate cancer. So maybe you ought to get something. So would you consider doing this Cologuard? And I said, well, yeah, sure, I guess I could do that. So she said, okay, we'll have one sent to your house. Well, 2 days later, the thing arrives, okay? Well, it gets there during the day.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, that's right. I'm busy, and that's not in my schedule at that time.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I get sick. And so I have super diarrhea and throwing up and this sort of thing. So I think, well, I can't do the Cologuard. So I forget it a couple of days, then I get sick. And so after you've been sick like that, the next day you have nothing to provide.
Right.
And even the day after that. And so today is the 3rd day, and I had an appointment at 8 o'clock in Waterloo, so I couldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And so, but I get a call this afternoon from this robot. Well, first I got an email saying, did you get it and everything? And then I got a call today from this robot, and it's a lady. This is important.
Right.
It's a lady's voice asking me if I got the Cologuard, and I have to say yes or no. And then, am I going to use it? Have I used it yet and mail it? No. You just FedEx it. You just put it in a box, and FedEx comes and gets it. It's really great. It's
Really
something,
great.
It's something. You got to put this little seed on there, and you got a cup, and you got a little thing, you rub it in, you stick that in a test tube, and it's something.
Unless you're the FedEx man, it's not really great for the FedEx man, but go on.
I'm sure. Okay, so then she asked if I'm going to do it. And I said, well, yeah, I'll take care of this, you know. She gave me the number to call if I need help, all this stuff. So it harkens me back. I was thinking about when I was in Vietnam, I was injured. I wasn't, it was an accidental kind of thing. It wasn't anything dramatic. But I end up in the burn ward in a hospital in Yokosuka, Japan. And I'm there for quite a while because it was pretty bad. And so there comes a time when the nurse comes around and she has a styrofoam cup with a lid. She said, we need a stool sample from you boys that are going home pretty soon. And that was the first time I'd heard I was going home. I thought maybe I'd go back to Vietnam. But they said, that's the first time I heard I was going home. And we said, yeah, right. So we put it on the bedside thing and we just forget about it. Well, 3 or 4 days later, she comes and says, I don't have those stool samples yet. And we said, yeah. She, listen, if I don't get that stool sample, you guys can't go home. And so what they're looking for is parasites. If you have,
Right.
You boys can't go home. Okay. So we all go in their head at the same time and have a little contest, see how we can fill their cup afterwards. And so it's this nurse's voice, and then this robot woman's voice. I said, holy cow, this is all over again. This is happening to me. Some woman is making me poop in a styrofoam cup. So anyway, I'm going to try to get that done tomorrow.
What's that called? Cologuard.
Cologuard, yeah.
I've never heard of that. I didn't know there was
if you don't want the colostomy, you can do this. Study the stool sample, I'm thinking, for blood samples, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I get emotional. I got to blow my nose now. But it just went, I'm doing this all over again with this styrofoam cup and what they want in it. So,
I didn't mean to laugh at you.
That was the whole point of the story. But
This is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network, and I'm here with Dale Rueber, and producer Blake Tempus is out on assignment right now looking for a mailbox. We are talking about many things today. The Jesup news. Thank you for that, Dale. Dale, do you have a tattoo? You were in the military.
no, I do not have a tattoo.
Did you ever? Has it ever occurred to you or your children or your wife to get a tattoo?
We were in the car. My kids were all grown out of school. They were, I think, in college or right out of college or whatever. So, but all of us in the car traveling somewhere. And my wife was talking about tattoos for some reason, and how, she was grateful that none of our kids had gotten a tattoo. And it got real quiet in the back seat there. And I find out that one of my children was on a college trip with other college students, and it did end up getting a little tattoo on her ankle, or I can't remember now. Yes, and so, but that's the first we had ever heard of it. So, so as far as I know, she's okay. And then my daughter Heather, her husband had a few tattoos, not very many, but a few, and do music, I think. But when they were married 5 years, they both went and got 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and the line across for their 5 years.
Really?
And then after 10 years, they got 5 more. See, so
No kidding.
yeah. So the girls both have a tattoo. I'll say it right out loud. The girls have a tattoo. As far as I know, Christopher does not. So, and
Okay.
Deb does not, and I do not. So, my wife was a teacher in Dunkerton, and this boy she'd had in 4th or 5th grade, when he graduated from high school, he was living in Waterloo at that time, invited her to his reception, which I thought was very nice. And we get there, and his ambition was to go to school to be a tattoo artist. And I said, well, listen, if Mrs. Rueber came in and wanted a little heart put on her butt, I said, would you be able to do that? He said, nah, he didn't think that would be very good. So I said, well, I just wondered, because it's, you gotta be a professional. But
Interesting. Well,
why do you ask?
Well, here is a little spiel on why people get tattoos. Peer pressure.
Yeah.
Media influence and personal expression are some of the main reasons for wearing tattoos today. The desire to be part of a group is accepted by one's friends or peers. So like your daughter got one with her friends.
Yeah.
Can have a great influence on what a person does. Sometimes wearing a tattoo can be a sign that you belong to a certain group. Sometimes it's all about self-expression. For example, one of the most common reasons people get tattoos to express themselves.
Yeah.
And their unique personality. Tattoos can express an individual's personality, beliefs, and values. A tattoo allows an individual to express themselves in a unique way. Many people use tattoos to express their spiritual thought or sayings. You see a lot of cross on people. Aesthetically these days, eyebrow tattoo. Rachel talked about that when we interviewed her, Rachel Dow. But aesthetically these days, eyebrow tattooing or beauty spots are very common to enhance the way that you look. For better or for worse, tattooed people are typically associated with being extroverts, have a rich social life, or are necessary to feel unique and stand out from the people. In fact, not so long ago, tattooed people used to be regarded as more rebel or even more conflict, not confident.
Conflicted?
Conflicted.
Okay.
For they may want attention, self-expression, independence, rebellion, a personal narrative, reminders of tradition, sexual motivation, addiction. I know a lot of people that once they started getting tattoos couldn't stop.
It looks like sometimes that they're very compulsive.
Yeah, tattooed people used to be, or it isn't far from one's knowledge that tattooing was once considered taboo and art that may lead you to prison. Tattoos were also a form of expression, allowing individuals to showcase their personal beliefs, values, and experiences. People often choose tattoos that have personal significance to them, such as symbols that represent their family, hobbies, or life experiences. Respondents with 4 or more tattoos had significantly higher self-esteem than those with less.
Okay.
This was especially among those who reported a history of depression. The cause for this may be that a tattoo gives them a sense of control over the self and allows you to reclaim something that has been lost or taken.
Okay.
But in the ancient Middle East, writers of the Hebrew Bible forbade tattooing biblically. In Leviticus 19:28, you shall not make gashes in your flesh for the dead or incite any marks on yourselves. Historically, scholars have often understood this as a warning against a pagan practice of mourning. So it's a pagan thing is what biblically it is. Tattoos can serve as a form of self-care, promoting self-love and self-acceptance for individuals. Tattoos can also be a form of personal growth and self-discovery, inspiring introspection and self-reflection.
Etiquette, tattoo etiquette. I was at a function at our church in the summertime, and there was a lady there that I did not know. She was there for the reception or whatever it was. But she was wearing, I would call it like a sundress, kind of bare shoulders with just thin straps over there. And she had something written on her chest, right above her left breast, where it was in cursive. It was a quotation, looks like to me. And the strap was going through it and a little bit of the collar or whatever. And so I couldn't read the whole thing. But it looked like, from what I could read, that it was something familiar that I had read something similar before. So I was very curious about this. But I did not go up and say, can I read your chest? Or, I'd like to read that. Or what does it say? I decided that would not be polite. Yeah, or appropriate or polite.
Yes.
Probably, if it had been on her arm, that may have been different. But it was on her chest and partially covered by her dress. And so I refrained from doing that. But I often wondered what the response would have been, if that was something she would have been proud to share. But I always thought, if you have it there where people can see it, then you must want people to look at it. And so, I don't know, it's just something I wondered about.
It is a time where, females have been harassed for such a long time, and, you're not supposed to say, oh, I love your hair anymore, or have you lost weight?
The quote the guy gave today. Do you remember that?
Yes.
About the church, yes.
Yes. That was a wonderful story.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about their clothes, or anything like that. It's seen as inappropriate. I believe, and listeners, tell me if I'm wrong, please, but I believe it's acceptable to talk about tattoos. How many tattoos do you have? Where are they? type of deal.
You think that's okay?
Without putting them in in a bad spot.
Yeah.
On my leg,
Yeah.
on my back, or
Yeah.
like that. Don't push it. Don't say, "Oh, can I see that?" type of deal. But yeah, it's never went through your mind to get a tattoo?
Not really, no. I guess it's every time you go to give blood, they ask you a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
And one of them is, have you had a tattoo recently?
Yeah.
And they want you, and so apparently they're worried about hepatitis and this sort of thing. Well, if they're worried about hepatitis, then I'm worried about hepatitis too. And no, I don't do anything to myself that involves pain. I mean, you get enough pain just by accident. Why do it to yourself? And so it's just something I've never been interested in as far as, needles don't bother me. I mean, I give blood and this sort of thing and never had any problem. But the idea of someone doing that, it just, it's just nothing I've ever been interested in.
When I was traveling a lot, I always thought I would like to have my name or my initials somewhere in case, God forbid, anything ever happened to me. My body could be recognized.
Yeah.
But I could not think of any place where I could hide a tattoo.
Yeah. I saw a man, I was in an imaging place, they're getting a diagnostic test done. And there was a man in there with his wife, and the man obviously not feeling very well. And he's in there to get some kind of test done, I suppose, to nobody's treatment. And I heard the nurse ask if he was diabetic, and he had to take a pump or something off that he had on and this sort of thing. But he was a man who was bald-headed, but it was shaved bald because he was starting to get the fuzz back, so like you're doing. But you could see that there were several tattoos on his head as he walked by. So at one time he had been completely shaved and gotten those tattoos on his head. And I was, again, curious about wondering what those are, but he was walking past me over there, and so, he's gone to a room, and the opportunity was, and I wouldn't have asked him anyway. But, those were very prominent tattoos. They were on a bald head where anybody that you can come into contact with is going to see them. And so that's like getting your Social Security number printed on your back or something, so your dead body can be pulled out of the plane crash and
recognized.
Yeah, hey, it's Jim. So.
Yeah. When tattoos were first becoming very popular among young people, and it would have been about the time Christopher graduated. What year would that have been?
95.
About 95, 96, and we had this discussion, and I asked a number of the kids, and a number of the kids said, when they graduate they were going to get it, or when they turned 18.
Sure.
And a number of people during that time were getting Chinese symbols.
Oh, sure.
But unfortunately, not a lot of people in our country read Chinese symbols.
Yes.
And they were told one thing,
but it meant something else.
And it meant something else.
Yeah.
And a number of people made mistakes with those symbols on their body.
Yeah. And there are people now making a good living taking tattoos off of.
Yes.
Which is quite an expensive, a somewhat painful process, I understand, but that it's a new industry that's coming out. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where, like we were traveling, I think it was in Arby's, but the lady at the counter that took your order was obviously in her 50s or maybe even her early 60s and had several tattoos on her arms and even on her face and everything. And it was not a good look for a person that age, but, and she's working at Arby's, so it makes you wonder if that had anything to do with it. Yeah. But I think you need to look at the long-term results of, like Mike Tyson put that thing on his face when he was a young man. I thought, okay, that's really stupid, because that's there forever, pretty much, and what does that tell people about you? I don't know.
Did you watch that fight, Dale?
No, I didn't watch it.
Blake, did you watch that fight?
The big one?
Yeah, Mike Tyson and what's his name? Paul.
Yep. On and off.
Yeah.
So your Netflix was working. Mine wasn't working.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, the numbers were 60 million households, not 60 million people. 60 million households. Yeah, it wasn't working. Netflix struggled.
Yeah. Well, the fighters struggled too because they showed Tyson on the news after the first round coming to sit down. He looked gassed after one round, and so they said he was not in shape and it was more like an exhibition than a real boxing match, is what the commentators I listened to were saying, and that it was really just a way for a lot of people, especially those fighters. They made a lot of money, 20 million and 40 million. They split, I guess, it that way, and so
it is a 57-year-old man though to live on his legs when you get pounded that. You know, I mean, that was the issue. Paul knew enough to stay away from him for a couple rounds.
Tire him out.
To tire him out because, you know, a 57-year-old man's not meant to stand toe-to-toe with a man
20 years younger, right?
Yeah,
20 years younger?
20 or 30 years younger,
So,
and fight.
It was pretty much overblown, but enough people bought into it. You know, they made a lot of money. And so, sort of like Bobby Riggs and Billie Jean King playing tennis that time. Everybody knew what was going to happen, but they still bought into it. So
They did. So this is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. The list of Trump cabinet choices are out, and let's talk about some of those. Let's start with the elephant in the room, if you would. Matt Gaetz, the representative from Florida, his father owned the hospice, and he owned a chain of hospices and sold them $400 million. That's how the family made their millions. And his father was a representative in Florida. Matt Gaetz became representative in Florida and then became a representative in D.C.
So when you think of hospices, do you think of that as a money-making venture, like a big-time corporation kind of thing, or?
I never thought so.
I never did either. So I thought it was like a hospital puts it on as a nonprofit, and you know they make enough money to pay their workers, but they don't. It's not a conglomerate, or it's not something where you have 40 or 50 of them that you own and you make money from them. I wasn't not aware that that's what hospices were for. But
well, rest homes. Did you see those money makers? And they are.
Yeah, no, and some of those big companies are the worst ones as far as getting fines and not, but they're also the best ones for giving huge donations to public officials also.
Yes.
The owners of those places. So, as an old person, I would say the best advice is to stay out of those places just as long as you can. So
you spoke about that before on the show.
Yeah, I know. It's a topic close to my heart.
Yeah,
every year it gets worse. So
it is.
I just realized yesterday I'm the second oldest person on the Farmers Day Committee, and every other person my age is retired long ago. So,
but anyhow, Matt Gaetz is President-elect Trump's choice as Attorney General. Soon as he was chosen, he resigned from Congress, and at the same time, a report was supposed to come out on how he had given money to underage women
as payoffs.
Yeah. And given them drugs also. Because he's out of the Senate or out of the House now, supposedly never supposed to see the light of day.
Oh, the ethics report.
Yeah, the ethics. So here's a question for you, Dale. Will Matt Gaetz make it to will he even be voted on by the Senate?
I know they only need 3 Republicans to cross over to defeat his nomination.
Yeah,
there's enough Democrats. If they all voted no, if 3 Republicans voted no, then he would not be confirmed. Is the way that's what I remember reading. And so you would think out of 50 senators, there might be 3 that say, "Hey, this is not a good guy to have as Attorney General."
But will they turn their back on Trump? Trump's got a mandate, Dale. Well, arguably, he won the presidency fairly big.
Yeah, but he wasn't elected king, though, and there's a process to go through, and it's supposed to be with the advice and consent of the Senate. And if their job is to advise and saying, this is not the kind of guy we want, we're not going to vote for him.
There's talk of a recess appointment.
Yeah, and see, to me, that's what a lot of government officials do that are working in power now, is they go around the rules. And there's rules and there's loopholes, and the loopholes are put in there on purpose. And so if you're using loopholes to get what you want, then I think you're not living up to the spirit of the Constitution and why it was written the way it was written. And so he can do it.
There-
But to me, it would not be the most ethical thing to do. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Well, and he also appointed Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got a guy in waiting, if you would.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: if they don't talk him out of it, and there's senators right now trying to talk President-elect Trump into presenting him. The Supreme Court says that a recess is 3 weeks. You know, the Senate. When's the last time the Senate's been in session, Dale?
What, October? No, September probably, right? Don't they take all of October off? And they haven't done anything.
Right, because they wanted to be reelected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a long time.
There's a lot of recesses. Now, that first 100 days, I don't know if, you know, there is a thing in the Constitution that says the president has a right to tell the Senate to recess.
Yeah.
But it's never been used.
Yeah, not that I know of.
No.
Yeah.
No, ever. So yes or no? First off, will Matt Gaetz be voted on?
No, I bet he doesn't come up for a vote. I'll bet if he gets it, it's going to be a around the corner kind of thing.
So a recess type of deal.
A recess thing, yeah. Because there's got to be, I don't know. Of course, I've been wrong on the whole thing, you know, I'm 0 for 400 in this whole election thing. And I know that. And so, I don't know. I'm torn because I'm trying to think of a time where Trump said, oops, I made a mistake, I'm going to take it back. And I can't remember him ever doing that. And so I think he's going to get his back up and stick behind him, and I think he's going to ram him through one way or the other. So I will say he gets a vote and he passes. Okay?
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Dale. Most people couldn't get it through. President-elect Trump has that ability.
Yeah.
Somehow to get that. All right, the next one. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, a Democrat,
Yeah.
is the next one on the list. He has been butchered by the press.
Well, a lot of it is his own. And he's the one that said he had a dead worm in his brain.
Yeah.
He's the one that found the dead whale and put it in his truck and took it to Central Park or something. Just some stories that you think, okay, this doesn't make any sense at all. So you wonder about how rational and up on things he really is. And the people that are doing your health stuff should be people that have worked their whole life in health. And I don't know if you saw the picture or not, but Kennedy once said that eating McDonald's was like eating poison. And then there was a picture on Trump's airplane. There's 4 or 5 of them all eating McDonald's hamburgers, and Kennedy's looking like he wished he was anywhere else but in that picture. Yeah. And you just think, well, Trump set that, because Trump's got a big grin on his face.
Yeah.
He set that whole thing up for him, because all the rest of them got their big hamburger, and Kennedy's looking at his like it's going to bite him like a snake or something. So
Trump, if I remember this right, Trump is big into McDonald's. He eats McDonald's a lot.
Because Kennedy, I think, has told him that his diet is horrible.
Yeah.
And Trump didn't like that, I guess. But so I don't know. Kennedy doesn't look like the most healthy guy to me, does it to you?
No.
And now if you eat raw carrots and onions like you should, you get E. coli and die. And so I don't know what we're going to do, Jim, but I think now I'm going to eat things that have been cooked at a high temperature before I eat them with him. As I was eating that pumpkin pie, I thought, it feels a little warm. I wonder if it's okay. Okay, who's next?
All right, border czar Tom.
Well, we didn't vote. What do you think? You think you're going to make it in?
Well, Bobby Kennedy make it. Yeah. You know,
they won't vote against him.
No.
It's interesting how some of these people have never. You talk about when you manage like the Defense Department, you got hundreds of thousands of people. Probably Defense Department, you got millions of people that work for you. And if you've never managed even a grocery store, that's a lot of responsibility to put on a guy, especially when they say they're going to clean house and get rid of this and get rid of that. They've got the federal workers so maligned that a lot of them may quit. And so I really fear that there's going to be nobody there that knows what they're doing to run these departments. Health and Human Services or whatever, that's kind of an important one. But if all those doctors at the CDC say, hell with you, I'm going to, we quit.
Yeah.
And it could very well happen.
Yeah, the issue of how many vaccines will be developed over the next 8 years, because Bobby Kennedy is anti-vax.
Yeah, but there's so much money in them.
Yeah.
For these drug companies that they'll be held to pay if he messes with them too much, because they provide a lot of money for politicians.
Yeah.
So
they do.
it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
The next one, borders are Tom Homan.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
Well, Homan is the man that wanted to go house to house and arrest. Back in President Trump's first administration, he wanted to do that. So that's one of the reasons that Trump hired him.
Yeah.
And so Trump says he will use the military to get there's how many illegals in our country? They claim 11 million. The issue is if they use the military, 40% are people of color, and it will be hard to get someone to get those guys or women to run those people out of the country. Now I heard on the podcast today, while they're saying they will arrest them and put them in the military camps. Because they don't have room for them in prisons, and there's no place built.
No, and I don't know. I've been on a few military camps, and they would have to put up. I don't know if they put up like a tent city, or I don't know how they would do that, because most of the buildings are full, or at least they were. I mean, there are bases. Like I was at El Toro for several years, and a couple of years. And that base is completely closed down, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And all the buildings are still there. And so some place like that possibly could be used, because it's got a fence around it, and it's got buildings, and it's got water, and even got a big airstrip and this sort of thing. So it's possible that there are enough bases like that to do that sort of thing.
Well, they used the cattle Congress when they arrested numerous people up in Postville.
Yeah.
Put them in couches. They could use every fairgrounds in Iowa.
So if you're an 18-year-old kid in the Army and you're arresting or trying to herd up these immigrants, and one of them takes off running, are you going to shoot him?
Well, I'm not, but you're asking the wrong man.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're under orders, even though it's probably an illegal order, you're putting these young soldiers in a bad situation. If people resist or people run, what are you supposed to do? You need to have clear rules and regulations so everybody understands what's going on.
The argument, Dale, is they broke the law.
Well,
I mean, so if the soldier shoots them,
yeah,
then they break. They're just enforcing a law.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't.
But the people that sent the soldiers have also broken a lot of laws.
Yes,
in my opinion. Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying I agree with that,
I know,
but
Jim.
that would be the argument.
But see, I just hate it when you say, okay, John the Baptist, and they sent this soldier down to bring his head back. Okay, so first of all, did the guy kill him and then cut off his head, or did he kill him by cutting off his head? And then secondly, did he even want to do that, but he was ordered by the king to go down and do this? So when he goes home that night, what does he tell his wife and kids about what he did that day? And see, that's part of the whole, those stories is never mentioned, is how it affects the people that had to carry out these bad orders, and that's post-traumatic stress and all that kind of stuff that we call it today. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm making any sense or not, but it just bothers me someone can sit in Washington, D.C. and tell these young kids, you need to go out there and arrest these people, even though you're not a police officer, and herd them into cars or whatever. And you think about that statement back from the 40s, where they came to take the Jews, but I wasn't Jewish, so I didn't say anything. You remember that?
Yep.
And if they can come into cities and just take people without arrest warrants, or and if they have all that paperwork done before they get there, then it's going to take years for all this to happen, and it's going to cost a tremendous amount of money. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think that's the answer, is to just turn the military loose on our country looking for illegal aliens. I don't think that's the way to go.
Well, let's talk about one more, and then you have a Hall of Fame ballot here.
Okay.
But let's talk about one more. Tulsi Gabbard is the Director of National Intelligence.
Okay.
And part of it is she's pretty pro-Russian. She spent a lot of time in Russia.
In Syria too, right? She likes the Syrian guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a real piece of work.
Yeah. So here's the issue. You're gonna ramp up the war in Israel, and you're gonna ramp down the war in the Ukraine. I see now. The Russians cut the cables again.
Oh, did they?
Would have been last night or the night before. It was cut by a Chinese ship, and I believe it was three Dutch ships that got them on radar, and they followed them and boarded the ship. Now that's the last I heard.
Oh, I had not heard anything about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so the Dutch boarded a Chinese ship?
Yeah, and the ship was captained by a Russian captain, and it was out of Russia.
Okay, and what cable was this that was cut?
The underlying cable between Germany and
In the ocean.
Yeah, in the ocean.
Okay, the transatlantic cable.
Yeah, the
okay.
transatlantic cable.
Communication cable.
Communication
yeah, okay.
cable,
All right.
yeah.
That's what I thought you meant. But,
Yeah.
Oh, I had not heard that. So, well, that will be interesting. So it's a Chinese registered ship piloted by a Russian, or captained by a Russian.
Out of Russia.
Huh? It's out of Russia. And the Dutch stopped it.
And the Dutch stopped it.
Okay.
Now,
Well, hooray for the Dutch.
Yeah.
Huh? Who would have thought?
Well, about that same time, Putin made another nuclear
Yeah,
threat.
I read about that, yeah.
And part of that is that Biden okayed the use of
Long-range missiles.
long-range missiles into Russia.
Yeah. It's funny how Russia wants to bomb the hell out of Ukraine, but they don't want any bombs falling in their country.
It is, and then the most recent thing I heard before we went on air was the U.S. Embassy was being evacuated in Kyiv.
Yeah.
Because there was a bombing coming in Kyiv.
Yeah. No, I swear, Jim, sometimes I just think we ought to just point everything we have at Russia and lock and load and say, okay, what do you want to do? And I know that's a stupid thing, but I just get so tired of that guy bullying everybody when there's nobody to knock him down off his pins a little bit. And so I don't know. He's probably the richest man in the world. You know, he's
One of them.
Yeah, he's looted so much from the Russian economy and everything. That's why their soldiers do so badly, because they have, I'm sure, that's my opinion, is that he has looted so much from the military. The military probably has the highest budget, and a lot of that money has gone into his pockets, I'm guessing, and his friends' pockets. And so the soldiers are being probably ill-treated, ill-fed, ill-paid, and their equipment is not being maintained like it should be, and that's why they've had so much trouble fighting a much smaller army. Even got the Koreans in there now to fight for them. And so that's just I know that's happened before.
Well, now I also heard this tonight, Dale, is the Russians, and I did not know this. The Russians have a nuclear program where, let's say, we launch nuclear missiles and kill their leadership. They have an automatic
Response.
Response,
I'm
yeah.
sure we have the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure we
Yeah,
do.
once they start flying, they just fly, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who's dead and who's alive. It's just they go. And
And they can say, well, the Star Wars program that Reagan put in protects us from nuclear missiles. The problem is all the radiation is going to be floating around out there.
Yeah.
So it's not protecting us.
Maybe I won't need that old age home after all.
I hope not. This is Jim Gillespie and Dale Rueber, and we're coming to you live from Cowork 591 Studios, and this is the C. Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. Dale, let's talk about something fun here.
Okay.
Tell me about the Hall of Fame.
This came out today. There's only three inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame.
This year,
right now, today.
Right.
And they're recognized for innovation and longevity. Now, did you ever have a My Little Pony?
No.
No, you never did. Okay. My kids had. But My Little Pony was introduced. It's a Hasbro toy in 1983 and again in 2003. At one time outselling Barbie. And so that has made it into the National Toy Hall of Fame. You ever play a card game called Phase 10? I think I did once with one of my kids or grandkids, but one of the best-selling card games, second only to Uno.
Yep, I played
Phase
that.
10 was in, Uno's already in, I think, the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Phase 10 was introduced in 1982, and he was a black game inventor and entrepreneur. It's a rummy-style card game, challenges players to collect groups of cards to complete 10 phases in sequential order before their opponents. Over the years, Phase 10 sequels, variations, and a mobile app have been released. So that's made it. And I have to go back to page 4. The third one, I know is Transform. Do you have a Transformer, Blake? Never did? Okay. Transformers in 1984 were first released. I remember my kids had those. My kids had the Little Pony, and they had the Transformers.
Okay.
And so they had a comic book, a cartoon TV series, animated movies, video games, consumer goods, and even their own cereal.
And what are these called again?
Transformers,
Oh,
you know, where
the
they look like a
Transformer.
car and you turned around the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
robot.
yeah.
Kids were bringing those to school like crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember that. So they're into the Hall of Fame, the
Yeah.
Transformer.
Yeah, they made it in this year. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay, I see. There are the first year, 1998, that they inducted toys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. See if you can name just one of them.
Monopoly.
No. Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Monopoly was in there.
Oh
Monopoly.
yeah, I
Okay,
was
you
gonna
got
say.
it right away.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
The first,
All right.
the first set, teddy bears.
Teddy bears.
The Erector set. You ever play with that one as
Yep.
a kid? Okay, I did too. Crayons. Crayon, frisbees.
Yeah.
Barbie doll, Etch-a-Sketch, which always drove me crazy.
That's a sketch.
Yeah. Tinker toys were big. I had those. Play-Doh, marbles,
I had
and
Play-Doh,
Lego.
marbles, I had 'em.
And Lego. Okay.
Lego.
So you would think Legos, they're still huge. So.
They are giant.
So my one grandson just finished he's almost finished putting together a large Titanic.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Hundreds and hundreds of pieces.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
I've seen that online.
Okay.
That's huge.
All right. Just I got to find this. Last year was baseball cards, Cabbage Patch Kids, the little Fisher Price corn popper. Remember that? You little kids pushing the balls and pop inside the glass.
yeah.
That made it, and Nerf toys. Someplace there was in the article, the ones that didn't make it. I was surprised by this. I'm sorry to keep you. These did not make it this year, and I was really surprised by this. Apples to Apples. You ever play that game?
Nope.
Okay, I've done that. The one that I was going to say this for last. Choose Your Own Adventure books, Hess toy trucks, Pokemon trading cards, the stick horse, and trampolines.
The stick horse.
The stick horse is the only one I remember,
Yeah.
and I know trampolines, of course.
Yeah.
But the one I thought really got shafted, one of the greatest toys of all time, was a balloon. And if you ever see kids play with balloons, you can play with balloons for hours.
You can.
And that didn't make it this year. That was not voted in. So that was one of the 12 finalists. So I was surprised the balloons didn't. So.
No kidding. No
So
kidding.
anyway, so 3 new inductees, and the National Toy Hall of Fame, I can see where it's at.
Where's that?
Oh, okay. It's in the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York.
Rochester, New York.
Okay, so
This,
had to take a trip to New York and see that, and go to Massachusetts, and see the Norman Rockwell Museum there. I'd like to see his paintings from the Saturday Evening Post and stuff.
that would be cool.
All right. Think with the company will send us on a field trip?
I will talk to the executive director
Okay, that sounds great.
if we ever have one.
Yeah.
This is Steve Brown, Art Center Podcast Network. Just a reminder, we have our second artist in residence. His name is Richard Moore Kelly, and his art is up at M's Coffee Shop in Independence. Richard is the husband of the American Lutheran minister.
Okay.
And Richard is also an ordained minister as well.
And he does paintings?
He does geometric paintings. Dale, someday I'll have to introduce you. And Richard is, and we will have Richard on the air. Richard is a well thought out man, very very well educated.
He'll fit right in here then, right?
He will. He will. He is. Richard is legally blind. He was telling me he has 2,200 vision.
Oh wow! His whole life, or just
His whole life,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
He said his grandfather had it too, as well. It's the first male in the generation.
that gets it? Isn't that
Yeah.
strange how that works?
Yeah.
Just because there's several things like that, hereditary things. That,
Yes.
it's just amazing how that works.
But he is. I look forward to having him on the air.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And look forward to the audience meeting him. But make sure you get into M's Coffee and see his art. I can see Richard having a large impact on our community.
Okay.
So another thing is the 7th of December. We will be broadcasting live that night, thanks to Blake's technical ability. I'm not sure, and maybe you can tell me, Dale. Is there anything in the basement during the holiday
I think
celebration?
last year, didn't the library have a meal down there? They
Yeah.
were selling like a soup supper or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
remember
if
I was in Michigan last year. I was not here.
Right.
But I think the library, Friends of the Library, but I don't I've not heard that they're doing that this
Yeah,
year.
if
So it
there,
might be open.
if there's nothing in the basement, we'll probably just do that from here.
Okay.
Is do our live broadcast from here and send people out to interview,
Grab people, yeah.
people to interview. So that
Okay.
so that week the show will be on Saturday, Blake, the 7th, and then on December 18th, the Wednesday show, we will be doing our broadcast from Winding Creek,
Okay.
and interviewing some of the residents
Inmates.
there.
I always tease
call
Georgia Yaunt about being an inmate over there, and all the time she gets to escape to get out into the community. So
Now, our associate with CAP trying to set up a couple of artists to be showed that day
okay.
as well.
That'd be great.
So, yeah, I'll tell as we get closer to that. I will share those artists' names with you.
That would be great.
So that's December 8th. Those are up. Those are the final. Besides the podcast, and then next week we have on our show Keegan Smith. Keegan went to Jesup High School for a couple years, graduated from, I believe, Waterloo West, and he is going to graduate from the University of Chicago here at the end of this year. But he's going to talk about the national debt next week, and he wants to go toe to toe with Dale.
Oh well.
Keegan will make a shout out right now to you and Dale. Dale looks forward to the Tyson Paul
You big
fight
liar.
of podcast that night. We'll see if Netflix won't put us on.
No, we should
for
try that.
night.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll bring my cut man with me just to
There you go.
protection.
Do you have anything else for us, Dale?
No, I could read a couple things, but I'll save those for another day.
All
so,
right.
no.
If you'd like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center, and I had Blake say this for us, he has it memorized, or have an idea for an event, go to the Steve Brown Arts Center.org and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@stevebrownaartscenter.org.
There you
I
go.
can't remember it. I got to read it,
Yeah.
Blake. Or call 319-290-0241 and leave a message. Let me say that again, 319-290-0241 and leave a message. I'm Jim Gillespie with Dale Rueber and producer Blake Tempus. Before I do the final part of the sign-off, Dale, what was that story that the man told about Weight Watchers?
Oh, yeah. He was doing church announcements out of church bulletins, and he said that the Weight Watchers group will be meeting on Wednesday night, and they would come through the double wide doors on the east side of the building.
Yeah, sometimes we all put our foot in our mouth.
Yeah.
As always, thanks to Kelly Seahouse. Kelly, thank you for everything you do for us and getting us into Cowork 591 Studios here. Thanks to the audience for bringing...
And, yeah, I was going to say, the last few weeks I've had several people that I did not really know really say, hey, I've been listening to your podcast, I really enjoy it. And I said, well, I'm glad they're saying something to me, because it makes me feel really good that somebody's out there listening, of course, but then also that you take a moment just to say something, So I appreciate that very much, and I hope people do get something out of the program and do keep listening. So.
We can do this without the audience,
Yeah.
and thank you. And we can't do this without guests. We have another guest the week after next. Also, as always, thanks to Kelly, and thanks to the audience for bringing these stray dogs into your day. And remember that each day is about little victories.
Little victories.